Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back another video from Swag Kage, and today we're checking out what if Rock Lee could use ninjutsu. This is a very interesting one. I feel like if Rock Lee was able to do ninjutsu stuff, he would be a beast. I mean, he's taking on anyone with just taijutsu as it is. And you see the potential in what my guy can do with the gates and that. Slap everything else on top. Jesus Christ, he'd be an absolute monster. So let's see what Swag Kage has to say, shall I? So I imagine it's not just as straightforward as he's a god.
How's it going, everybody? Swag Kage here.
Hey.
And I brought two guests with me today.
Oh, sweet.
They're not new, though.
Sick.
Been to the channel before. You
Cool.
probably know them.
Seth Programmer 6.
In this video, y'all already know. What if Rock Lee could use ninjutsu? Like, what if he just wasn't only throwing hands? Like, what if it was like a fair game, and how would it go? So,
what if at the end of that fight, instead of the fifth gate kick, Lee just rammed the Chidori?
So I mean, like, one thing with the video we weren't really sure is, okay, if he could use jutsu, do we just give him like
everything? Or yeah, like what's he capable of doing?
What do we go over?
What
like,
can he do? Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a very vague question. It's extremely open-ended because, like, when we're talking about ninjutsu, that's like the most massive like field of different abilities.
There's lots of different things. There's lots of different chakra natures. There's lots of different like elemental stuff.
So many ninjutsu.
Yeah.
And so many of them work differently and could affect them differently.
Like,
so
there's over 1,000, isn't there? Didn't MC Hammer do a video on the dangerous ones explained, and it was like, whoa.
And you also have to ask, like, which ninjutsu would it make sense for Rock Lee to learn in the first place? I don't think that Lee would be pulling up on anybody with, like, Edo Tensei.
Oh, jeez, imagine.
That doesn't seem particularly in character.
No.
I think that stuff like shadow clones, or as you guys saw in the thumbnail, the Rasengan, would kind of make sense for Lee. Because he's, like, when Guy and Kakashi talk about him during the tuning exams, and I mean, this is displayed multiple times, like, organically through the series too, but they talk about him like he's an extremely hard worker. Right?
Yeah, like he definitely works for what he gets. So if he was able to do ninjutsu and stuff
like the Rasengan or the Shadow,
he'd work for it.
By just like brute force practice would probably. I mean, the Rasengan's a little bit weird because
not many people can do it
properly. But then Naruto figured out how to like cheat with it, so it's a little.
Rock Lee would probably be able to figure it out.
I guess anything where he could just dump a ton of chakra into it, he would probably be able to perform.
I think one of the things that makes it hard for Lee to use jutsu, we learned this in Data Book 4, where it instead of like weird arbitrary stat bubbles, instead it's just like, okay, yeah, the stat idea was kind of dumb. Instead, here's their chakra natures. Instead. So with Lee, he actually has no chakra natures.
Oh, mate.
Even in this video, like the headcanon it, we don't.
Yeah, you're gonna have to like
know
just
what
make
he
stuff
could've
up for that then.
Anyway, like we can't be like, oh, maybe you learn a fire style or water. We don't know. Like, so everything is headcanon pretty much except for just basic jutsu, like the escape jutsu or the doppelganger jutsu. But one thing I'll say about Lee that's kind of interesting is he actually does have chakra anyway. He just can't use ninjutsu, and that's obviously shown with him using the gates.
Right.
Chakra. But the other thing that's interesting is he also walks on water. So not only does he have chakra, but he actually does have somewhat of a precise chakra control.
Yeah, because you got to be able to walk on the water, walk on the trees. There you go. Well, so he does have a little bit.
Walking on water is harder than walking on trees, which they like spend weeks on or whatever, or days.
There you go.
This was after Sasuke was doing this like beyond any level jutsu too. That like
exactly.
Oh, the fire style, fireball technique.
Makes sense for
his chakra shouldn't have been developed enough or whatnot.
So
one part with Lee is that there's more so some weird property about his chakra that maybe makes it hard for him to control.
To get to tap into it,
Sasuke and the other Nin's kick at the beginning of the tuning exam, Sasuke's like, but there's something like
weird about his chakra, right?
His arms. You can see it like highlighting his arms all the way through.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make it clear, like, yeah, he always has had chakra, but it's more so like he doesn't have techniques to amplify.
Yeah, you can't like do anything with it like everyone else can.
So, a great example, and Swag was bringing this up before we started recording, is obviously the body flicker technique. If you guys want, you can go into detail
Yeah, they're just really fast.
At high speed. A lot of people are under the misconception that this is a like rare jutsu or like a specialty thing that only certain people use, like Shisui, because of his moniker, Shisui of the body flicker. And there are definitely ninja who are more talented with the body flicker than others, right? Like again, Shisui or the Raikage or Minato. It also gets even more confusing if you read the manga too, because in like the Viz translation, it's referred to as teleportation.
Right.
They talk about Minato's skill with body flicker, but they say teleportation. So like it sounds like they're talking about flying Raijin, but no, this is like
right, because the flying Raijin is teleportation. That's instantaneous too. The body flicker is just moving really, really fast.
To say like pretty much everyone. So everyone can use it, but if Lee can't use ninjutsu, then he probably shouldn't be able to use it either.
Yeah.
And another thing about this that's weird.
Interesting.
Is Lee isn't listed with a 0 stat.
There's a 0.5 there.
Yeah, 0.5.
What?
So it's possible that he can use body flicker.
Right.
In which case, this next point doesn't matter.
That's
but
so weird.
If he can't, then like if he suddenly if we give him the ability to use ninjutsu and then he's able to learn body flicker, this is like an enormous help for him. Because everybody else in the series that we know of should be able to use it.
Yeah.
Guy is a ninjutsu user because he can summon the turtle, so he should be able to use body flicker. So like the fact that Lee is able to move at the same level, generally speaking anyway, as people like this with no body flicker to assist him is insanely impressive.
Yeah.
And like if you gave him this massive speed amp, I think that I don't know if it'd make him like the fastest top 1 character in the series, but
he'd be up that.
It makes you so much faster that you appear to be almost teleporting, right?
Yeah, to like regular people.
That's like the whole gimmick about it.
Oh, it's like an insanely massive like boost to your speed and short, bursts or whatever. So if he was able to use, say, like a body flicker alongside like a powerful like enhancement jutsu, such as like a Rasengan or whatever you want. Even with the gates, imagine he could just like move so fast he like teleports ×2 with like a gate. Like
my god, like amplify. Yeah, the gates amplify everything anyway.
In that state, like I don't know, that would just be like next level stuff for the shooting exam. So
and people already think Lee like blitzed Edo Madara. Remember on top of
he kicked him.
When he kicked him in half.
Like whoa.
Super mega speed blitz Edo Madara with body flicker. And he was in base then. Well, he had the QB cloak on, but
Still. Come on.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit late to address this in the video, by the way. But one thing I would like to mention, a lot of people, I've seen this question asked elsewhere, and if you Google like what if Rock Lee could use ninjutsu, you're bound to run into this response as well. A lot of people are under the impression that if he could, he would actually get weaker.
What?
His drive to train would like disappear. And I guess that's maybe a sort of valid perspective, but
that is an interesting one.
We know Lee trained very, very hard. At the very least, at some point when he thought he could still use it.
Yeah, so but when
there's like a flashback of him trying rigorously to learn how to use the clone jutsu so that he can pass the graduation.
Yes, I know. I think like if he had it from the beginning, I reckon he'd still train hard. I get why people think this though.
Because it's not like Guy says he can't use ninjutsu except for the clone jutsu. You learn that so you can pass the graduation. Like he doesn't say that. He just blanket says Lee
can't do it.
But even if you take that flashback out of the equation, I just feel like it's not like Lee only started training super hard after he learned.
After he found out he can't do it, yeah.
Because he had to have learned by trying
to do it, yeah.
Learn it, that he wasn't able to. And
he's just a hard worker in general, kind of like Naruto is, where they both just like work really hard. I mean, maybe you could like, bluff it up to be, since they're considered like lesser, they work harder to compensate or something. But from the looks of it, even when like Rock Lee learned, say, the gate release, and no one else could on his team, he still trained like extremely hard regardless. So I don't know. It does seem like there's something inside of Lee that really wants to like work hard.
Yeah, it's who he is.
When he was first introduced to at least like in anime and stuff like that, we see him as a kid before he really becomes like a genin and gets bullied for not learning ninjutsu. He has that fiery spirit even before he really gets into it. So he just seems like that type of person that would just want to train on some Bruce Lee energy.
Yeah, he even does it whenever he has the broken legs. they have to stop.
Yeah, the idiot.
He's trying to believe he's not supposed to. So it is just like a personality trait Lee has. Like he just works hard. That's just him.
But I mean, we can just go over some examples if he had ninjutsu. So
yeah,
I mean,
do it.
I don't think he would ever be able to use chidori. Just in the sense that the chidori seems to be a technique that amplifies your speed to the point where like you need a Sharingan to see almost your own movements.
To like actually comprehend what's
this
happening.
Is like really, as weird as it sounds, it's not really strength dependent because it seems to amp your speed, the user speed, to the point where they can barely see it. So even Kakashi, when he's becoming Hokage, like it makes him move so fast. He's like, I need something else. And he makes the purple lightning,
yeah,
or whatever to compensate for it. So Lee probably isn't using the Chidori against Gaara. He's not gonna just like pull the Sasuke 2.0 but better or something. But things like Rasengan, Sage Jutsu, Shadow Clones, all of that is extremely possible. So I don't know. You can just go into that, I guess.
Yeah.
But,
so like,
turtle that can chase Kisame across an island, like spinning through the air like Master Roshi or something.
Yeah.
So, like I said at the beginning of the video, anything that just requires like
hard work,
brute force approach to the training, just like dumping a ton of chakra into it until you finally get it right, it definitely seems like it's up Lee's alley because that's his sort of training style, right? Like I'll just
keep kicking this until my legs are stronger. I'll keep punching this until brute it.
Force it. Like monotonous physical, like rigorous physical exercise. So anything that would that he could learn through like repetition, I think that he'd be able to pick up on. And I think that he would actually learn them at the very least more quickly than the average person would, based on what we're told about him. There are two separate statements about Lee being a genius. So the first one is he is called a
genius of hard work. Right, okay.
I think it was Guy that said this, right?
Well, there we go. It's there.
Kind of like a nebulous statement. I guess it just means that Lee is really good at like taking himself into gear and like learning new stuff. I don't know. But the relevant one that I was getting into here is like he is actually just called a genius, like in terms of his raw talent by Kakashi. Not just
I feel like the music's too loud on this bit over Swag talking, but it will.
When Kakashi learns that Lee is capable of opening the fifth gate, he says something along the lines of like, "Oh, a feat like that goes beyond hard work. Like it's not like you could have just learned that through practice."
My boy's a genius after all.
Yeah,
great example.
Yeah, Guy actually tried to teach his entire team how to open the gates. Neji and Tenten both attempted it, and Lee was the only person who succeeded. Now we don't know how many gates they were trying to open at the time, but I feel like it makes sense to assume Guy would start with the first gate.
Number one.
Yeah. Maybe we're seeing a point
let's skip a few gates and just accidentally rip our bodies apart.
The third, and after they failed or whatever. But I feel like the most reasonable assumption to make here is that they were trying to open the first gate, and Lee was the only one who could. Neji and Tenten couldn't open up any of them, and then Lee makes it all the way up to gate number 5. And we can also assume that this was in a relatively short period of time, that he went from no gates to 5 gates, because he doesn't look very different in this flashback. Like, there's a very clear visual difference between young Lee and Chunin exams Lee.
Oh yeah.
And now Tenten not being able to open the gates, like whatever, that kind of makes sense. But Neji is almost strictly a taijutsu user.
Yeah.
He knows some ninjutsu, rotation, and I guess the Byakugan if you count that. But that's like pretty much
even then. You gotta remember they have Guy trying to teach them these things, and many years later, so
can't
Joni,
do it.
Neji, Chunin, Tenten that can use the 6 paths tools, super genius Neji, they still can't use the gates from what we know of, and the data book says they can't use them either. And here's Lee going on to the 6th gate. So Kakashi being like, hey, he's got a little bit more than just hard work going on. There's probably a reason for
something else going on there.
When it comes to other jutsu as well, he'd probably be able to master them a lot more. Now, if he was
he'd probably do it quicker as well, just because of how hardworking he is.
Things like that. Now, the actual type that he could use is for instance, using a massive or a giant Rasengan, Jiraiya chakra.
It's a bit annoying that he's got 0 chakra natures to work on for this what if scenario as well.
Learning Rasen Shuriken, it was because Naruto could make like 1,000 clones just chill and cut leaves all day, which Lee probably couldn't do. But I guess Lee using any jutsu with his gates would just massively amplify.
Yeah,
so
give it a big freaking boost.
Just used a jutsu instead of just randomly just trying to punch down on Gaara when he used the 4th and 5th gate. And Gaara probably wouldn't get up. He'd probably do a little bit more than brush himself off and then teleport away. So that's what we believe. And it'd be interesting to see him actually kind of get to the Chunin exams finals and then scrap with Neji.
Yeah, that would be so cool to see.
Lee with the 3rd gate or something was considered like a heavy match or counter, or was on the verge of already defeating Neji, and then 4 or 5 was beyond Lee's body limits. He was ripping him apart. But so the fact that the 3rd gate was gonna
stack,
Neji, it kind of shows you wow, if this kid could just do anything else.
Yeah, it would just boost it all, wouldn't it? He would absolutely stomp.
I don't think that Neji would be able to fight 12 Lees.
No, Jesus Christ. Can you imagine if he had Shadow Clones?
So I think the messed up thing about Shadow Clone gates is that he probably wouldn't suffer the negative effects of the gates if his clones used them, right? He wouldn't suffer any of the injuries.
What?
Because Naruto gets the fatigue of his clones.
I don't know about that because of the war arc, but he definitely it does use your power at least to create the clones.
Yeah, you have to use up your chakra, but I don't know if Lee's clone got its muscle ripped.
Oh yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah.
Because then whenever Naruto's clone got stabbed.
Oh yeah, he'd be
then he would have a huge hole in his stomach.
That's a very good point.
That's not what I was saying.
Yeah, when a clone uses Sage Mode, in the war arc, it's not like when it disappeared, whatever, or got damaged or did all this stuff or used all its KCM energy, the main Naruto lost his, But, even without all that, you have to think about all the other jutsu that would be available that would just be able to help him. I think, story-wise, the only thing that would really change is just kind of part 1. Yeah. Lee wouldn't have been Drunken Lee versus Kimimaro, it'd probably just be normal Lee. Gaara probably would have got mopped up in the
previous pretty hard.
Maybe he would have went crazy before the finals or whatever you would say from there. But either way, when it get to the finals, maybe they would ruin their plan. Low-key, maybe they would lose confidence. There's a lot of things you could say story-wise.
So we can't go through with this. This guy's intense.
I'll fight him. For us to make those connections anyway. So I guess that's all there is really to say, unless you want to headcanon here he is with flying right.
I think one thing that actually is somewhat plausible, because he does sort of interact with Tsunade for an extended period of time after the Chunin.
Metal Ninjutsu.
Because of his injuries, which might not sustain in this, I guess, quote-unquote timeline. If he were to
in this
Tsunade,
what-if scenario.
It's outrageous to believe that he might be able to learn, maybe not medical ninjutsu, but the chakra enhanced
hard jutsu.
Yeah, right. Tsunade might be able to teach him how to concentrate.
God, could you imagine?
Precisely enough to do those nuclear bomb punches.
Jesus.
Would it just be a giga multiplier?
Yeah,
flying around the gates and then just exploding people with punches.
On top of
a big old Rasengan.
Jeez.
But thanks Seth and Six for coming down and talking about this very stupid topic.
I hope you guys enjoyed the comments. I think it was cool. It's a cool little thought.
Yeah, I thought it was cool.
It's kind of interesting. So.
I like that. That was cool. Yeah, that was a cool what if scenario. Rock Lee would absolutely beast it if he could do ninjutsu. That was a cool what if scenario. I like it. Yeah, the 0.5 on his stats for Genjutsu, so that does kind of hint that there's something there. But yeah, anyway, thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video I upload, links in the description to the Patreon page, $1 more for the last Hotspot channel. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys very much for that. Thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe, and leave comments down below. Let me know what I should want to discuss in future videos, and I'll see you guys